I actually wanted to make the Loom of Fate video today, but I figured it's Sunday and we get devious on Sundays. Anyway, we should stick with the Sinners and khaenriah theme for just a little while longer, with a rather interesting topic. Who is the Vinster king the 6 great khaenriahs were meant to stop?
6 of us. Together. We should have been the ones to prevent the disaster. The ones to stop the Vinster king from continuing to rock the foundation of the world.
And now, before we start, we should all be aware of what Vinster means, and it's Middle High German for dark, which, you know, would give this unscrupulous-sounding individual the title of the Dark King. And now I do quickly want to point out that dark doesn't necessarily mean this person has something to do with the Abyss, given God King Remus was called the Dark Lord, and he had no connection to the Abyss. But if that's the case, and this could be someone we just don't know about yet, so I'm not even... No. Now, barring this is someone we simply don't know about yet, there's 2 beings in Teyvat's lore who could fit the bill for the Dark King. The first is the final king of Khaenriah, King Irmin. And the other is the original Dark King. We all know who I'm talking about, so that bastard Karate Dragon King Nibelung. Evil sons of bitches, these 2, man. Nasty work. There's arguments to be made for either or, but I want to clarify. The way Dain made it sound, it's not like the sole purpose of these 6 was to simply stop this Vinster king from engaging in acts of tomfoolery, but rather, it should have been their responsibility, given they were the best of the best, and if they couldn't, no one could. Same with the Cataclysm. They should have been the ones to stop it, and Dain recognized as much. However, he's not the only one to state this.
That man, Dainsleif, was the Twilight Sword, one of the royal guards of the final dynasty of Khaenriah. 500 years ago, he failed to prevent the destruction of Khaenriah.
And now the Sibiling saying Dain was the one who failed to stop the Cataclysm, whilst Dain squarely places the blame on the other 5 responding to the Call of the Abyss, is interesting, because one of those 5 is Vedrfolnir, who the Abyss Sibiling is currently working with. Yet the Sibiling levied this accusation towards Dain, so I mean, someone's lying. I get Dain didn't completely absolve himself from blame, but someone's lying between these 2. Again, either the Sibiling had incredibly unrealistic expectations of Dain to sit here and 1v9 the fucking Cataclysm, just take on the Abyss by himself, take on the Archons by himself, take on the 5 Sinners by himself, take on our beloved Sustainer of Heavenly Principles by himself. So I mean, either the Sibiling is capping to Kingdom Come, or delusional, you take your pick. But back to the topic at hand, we'll start with Irmin, just cause, why not? King Irmin of the Dark Sun, as we all know, was the final king of Khaenriah, a flat-out, a terrible one. At that, great for us, but terrible for them. He did not lead them to an enlightened path. No, the complete opposites, I'm rejoiced to inform, because you see, King Irmin was mucking about with the Abyss, and Piero offers some very interesting insight into the matter. In English, the Pale Flame set writes, quote, "Since my level of learning could not compare with the sages, I failed to earn the favor of the previous ruler. So too did I fail to stop them from tearing away the veil of sin, ushering in a tide of divine wrath, destruction, and foolishness." However, what's interesting is in CN, it's better translated as, quote, "Since my talent and knowledge cannot be compared with that of a sage, I failed to win the favor of the previous king, and failed to stop them from tearing open the veil of deep sin, inviting the wrath of God, destruction, and the frenzy of stupidity." Another possible translation is, quote, "Since my talents are not comparable to those of the wise men, I failed to win the favor of the last king." Someone who's better at Chinese than me can correct. That's a very low bar, by the way. Can correct me if I'm wrong. I just hit translate on like 3 different websites and saw that sage was singular and not plural, and some said wise men, and sort of just went, well, I mean, what are the odds? They're all wrong. But if the actual translation refers to a single individual with the epithets of sage or wise man, then it's very likely this person could be one of the 5 great sinners the wise Raptatir. And if that's the case, then I'd argue it makes it more likely this Vinster king is in fact King Irmin, because this would indicate the 2 worked together with one another, and continue Dain's thought stating that while the 6 of them should have stopped this Vinster king, 5 didn't. Hell, doesn't even sound like they tried. They just, the 5 of them just gazed into the abyss and just started licking their chops. You're looking mighty fine over there, bitch. the fuck? They divided it amongst themselves and became transcendent ones with world-shattering power. This is in stark contrast to Irmin, who became indisposed towards the end of his reign, causing Anfortes Alberech to become regents. This sounds pretty far off from becoming a transcendent one, although it could have been, you know when the spider bit Peter Parker and he was sick before he became Thanos, it could have been that, I suppose. Now with that said, I still am a bit partial to the idea of Raptatyr being Odin or Irmin. I mean, the symbolism is there. Aside from the name being an alias of Odin, he's called the Wise. Odin is the god of wisdom. Raptatyr translates to sage, and Odin was the ultimate sage, but still, Dain just casually referring to the king in this manner seems odd, given at the end of the day, despite being the Twilight Sword captain of the Royal Guards, he was just that, a Royal Guard. So, you will show reverence to the king and you will like it. In any case, other arguments to be made that the Vinster king was King Irmin, well, he was first and foremost the king, the official king of Khaenriah, and those six, including everyone, serve the king. So naturally, when the king starts going rogue, it's the job of the king's subjects to stop the mad king. Don't believe me, ask the French how they get down. Given Irmin was using all manner of abyssal powers, naturally he would have been called Dark, because the abyss is dark. Another thing going for Irmin being the Vinster king is timing. He was tampering with the abyss right before the cataclysm and right before the five became sinners. And lastly, this is more, circumstantial than anything. In CN, instead of Vinster king, Dain said Black King, and likewise in CN, the Eclipse dynasty is instead called the Black Sun Dynasty. So with that said, moving on to our second contestant for the title of Dark King, we have King of the Crackheads, Nibelung. He perhaps, more than any other king, is associated with the power of darkness, given it's verbatim what Apep said he had when he came back to Teyvat.
The Dragon King acquired the power of darkness from outside of this world, and led us in a fight against the order established by the outsiders.
A CL Niba bitch here, despite having home court advantage numbers and being king of the dragon sovereigns, still got his shit ran by the sovereign of sovereigns. So he grabbed space drugs, hoping the crackhead strength would finally be enough to best the primordial one, a progenitor god hailing from beyond the stars. But nope, nigga, it ain't work, Rip Bozo. Sovereign's dead, you got a bitch made ass. All he accomplished was getting his race hooked on crack. You hate to see it. Just say no, Apep! Now, the obvious counter to Nibelung and the Vinster king being one and the same is Nibelung is dead, so far as we know, and we don't actually know if Nibelung was a sovereign, and what I mean by this is we don't know if there were 7 or 8 of these dudes, so whether or not he can reincarnate is completely up in the air. Furthermore, Nervalet's character story 5 paints a complex picture with regards to Nibelung and the Abyss. Quotes, he would never admit that he himself had become quite fascinated with the joys and sorrows of humanity. Was it not so, he would argue, that humans find their gaze stolen by the ripples from falling raindrops in puddles, and could it not be, he would explain, that King Nibelung had been wrong, and that the Black Void could only be opposed if all life were to band together as one. So, it sounds like Nibelung eventually was like, yo, this abyss is kinda AIDS that I brought over, and tried to oppose it at some points. But given this all happened well before this Vinster king seemingly came along and started rocking the foundations of this world, it casts some doubt as to whether these two really are the same. Now, despite that, one thing I wanted to point out is Nibelung does seem to have some ties with Khaenriah, maybe. The name Nibelung is Germanic and most known for the epic songs of the Nibelungs. The Nibelung Lied is what it's fucking called, or whatever, whatever the fuck that says, bro. Is a medieval epic that weaves together the mythological tapestry of Alberech, a cunning dwarf who guards the Nibelung treasure, including a ring forged from Rhine gold, called the Ring of Nibelung, that grants the user the power to control the world. Keep in mind, according to Clothar, there is also a power that allows one to control the world.
To us, you were the Abyss. A wondrous mystery far beyond our imagination and comprehension. And the one who controls the Abyss can control everything.
Furthermore, when Dain was found by the Pari, he had a ring in his hand, so could he be the Vinster king? Nibelung, I mean, not Dain. Maybe. I still personally lean towards Irmin, given the connection between the sinners and, King Irmin is way more clear than the one between them and King Nibelung, even if, the connection exists in Norse mythology. But I still wouldn't really be shocked if it were all cracky here.